Ladies and gentlemen, there is a hard truth that few people are willing to talk about. And it's this: the stronger you become, the fewer friends you have. The world tells you that popularity is a sign of success, that being surrounded by people means you're loved, that social validation determines your worth. But what if the opposite were true? What if true strength, deep independence, and unwavering integrity naturally set you apart? What if solitude isn't a weakness, but a consequence of being exceptional? People admire strength from a distance, but they rarely embrace it up close. A strong woman challenges mediocrity, refuses to entertain nonsense, and prioritizes self-respect over approval, and for that, she often walks alone. This is not a tragedy. It is not a sign of failure. It is a mark of authenticity. The path of strength is never crowded because few have the courage to walk it. Strength is a heavy burden, not because it makes life harder, but because it makes life clearer. And clarity is isolating. The stronger you become, the more you see the truth of fragility of relationships built on convenience and the superficiality of most social interactions. You start to understand that many people don't seek deep connections, they seek validation, comfort, and the illusion of closeness. When you refuse to play that game, when you demand authenticity instead of empty gestures, you will inevitably stand alone. And that's the price of strength. A strong woman doesn't just go through life, she carries the weight of responsibility, of self-awareness, of the unrelenting demand to be better than yesterday. This isn't a choice, it's a necessity. She has seen what happens when people allow themselves to be weak, when they surrender to insecurity, when they chase approval at the cost of their own integrity. She has watched others betray themselves just to be accepted, and she refuses to be one of them. That kind of determination creates distance, not because she pushes people away, but because they fall away on their own. Most people want comfort more than truth. They want reassurance more than reality. They want to be told that everything is fine, that they don't need to change, that their flaws are acceptable simply because they exist. But a strong woman challenges that. She doesn't coddle weakness. She expects effort. And that expectation alone makes people uneasy. It forces them to confront their own mediocrity, and rather than rise to the challenge, most will retreat. They will resent her for making them feel inadequate, even if she has done nothing but exist as an example of what is possible. There is a deep irony in strength that is admired from a distance, but resented up close. People look up to those who are strong, but they rarely want them in their inner circles, because the presence of strength exposes the excuses of the weak. A strong woman is not easily manipulated, not easily deceived, not easily controlled. That makes her dangerous in the eyes of those who thrive on power dynamics. She is not submissive to social pressure. She does not bend to the will of the group just to fit in. And so many will find her intimidating, even when she has no intention of intimidating anyone at all. But this is the price of being something more than average. The moment you decide to truly take responsibility for your life, you separate yourself from the majority. You are no longer one of them. You are not easily swayed by their emotions, their opinions, their expectations. And that creates tension because most people don't want to be reminded that they could be doing more. They don't want to be in the presence of someone who refuses to make excuses because it forces them to recognize their own. And rather than embrace that discomfort and grow, they choose to distance themselves from the one who exposed it. But here is the truth that must be understood if your strength has made you stand alone. It is not because you are failing. It is because you are succeeding. The easy path is always crowded. The path of least resistance is filled with people who prefer to be carried rather than to walk. But the path of strength is walked alone, because few are willing to endure the challenges that come with it. This is not a tragedy, it is a necessary reality. A strong woman does not seek to be liked, she seeks to be respected. And the moment you shift your focus from popularity to respect, your circle will shrink. People will fall away. Some will misunderstand you, some will resent you. Some will twist your strength into arrogance, your confidence into cruelty, your independence into selfishness. But none of that changes the truth. Because deep down they know that the real reason they feel uncomfortable in your presence is not because you are unkind, but because you are unshakable. And they don't know how to handle that. But solitude is not the enemy. It is the refining fire that separates the genuine from the inauthentic. It is what ensures that the few who remain in your life are there because they choose to be, not because they need to be. And that is worth more than 1,000 superficial friendships built on convenience. So let them go. Let the ones who cannot handle your strength distance themselves. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them tell themselves whatever stories they need to in order to feel better about their own insecurities. None of that concerns you because the path you walk is not meant for everyone. And the fewer people who understand it, the more certain you can be that you are on the right one. There is a reason why the world does not embrace those who refuse to conform. Strength disrupts the balance of complacency. It calls attention to the uncomfortable reality that most people choose ease over effort, familiarity over growth, and approval over truth. And when someone stands in stark contrast to that, they do not go unnoticed. A strong woman does not just live in the world, she challenges it. Not with aggression, not with arrogance, but simply by being. And that is enough to make people uneasy. She does not seek validation in the places where most do. She does not contort herself to fit into the spaces that were never meant for her. And because of this, she is often perceived as distant, difficult, or even cold. But that is a misinterpretation of what is truly happening. She is not distant, she is discerning. She is not difficult, she is deliberate. She is not cold, she is careful. Because experience has taught her that not everyone who walks into her life deserves to stay. People often mistake strength for an unwillingness to be vulnerable, but that could not be further from the truth. It is not that she does not feel deeply. It is not that she does not long for connection, for closeness, for companionship. It is that she has learned, sometimes through great pain, that not all company is good company. That loneliness is not cured by surrounding yourself with the wrong people. That true companionship cannot exist where there is no mutual respect, no reciprocity, no shared values. She has seen what happens when people settle for less than they deserve, how they shrink themselves, how they silence their own needs, how they sacrifice their self-respect for the sake of belonging. She has watched friends compromise their integrity just to avoid the discomfort of being alone. She has seen women tolerate mistreatment, manipulation, and mediocrity because they are more afraid of solitude than they are of losing themselves. And she has made a different choice. She has chosen to prioritize quality over quantity, depth over breadth, substance over surface. She does not collect friends like trinkets to display. She does not keep people around simply because they have always been there. She does not mistake longevity for loyalty. Instead, she looks for those who are willing to meet her where she stands, who do not demand that she lessen herself to make them comfortable, who do not require her to pretend, who do not resent her for the strength they have not yet cultivated within themselves. But this approach comes with a cost. The fewer compromises she is willing to make, the fewer people remain. The higher her standards, the lonelier the path. And so the world calls her intimidating. It calls her unapproachable. It labels her difficult, demanding, even arrogant. Because it is easier to criticize her than to admit that she is living proof of what is possible when one refuses to settle. But she does not live for their approval. She does not need permission to be exactly who she is. She does not require external validation to confirm what she already knows to be true, that her strength is not the problem, that her unwillingness to tolerate less than she deserves is not a flaw, that if she is too much for some, it is only because they have not yet expanded their own capacity to be more. She understands that the world will always push back against those who refuse to conform, that society rewards those who are agreeable, accommodating, and easily influenced, that there is an unspoken expectation, particularly for women, to be soft in ways that do not make others uncomfortable, to be strong but not too strong, to be confident but not so confident that it threatens those who are not. And she rejects all of it, because strength is not something to be hidden. It is not something to be apologized for. It is not something that should be dimmed just to make others feel better about themselves. Strength is a gift, a responsibility, a necessity, and if that means standing alone more often than not, so be it. Because the ones who remain the ones who see her clearly, who do not fear her strength, but instead appreciate it, those are the ones worth keeping. Those are the relationships worth nurturing, the friendships worth investing in. And they are few, not because she is unworthy of companionship, but because she refuses to accept anything less than what is real. So she walks alone when necessary. She stands firm when challenged, does not explain herself to those who have already decided to misunderstand her. And in doing so, she ensures that when she does find connection, when she does allow people into her world, it is not because she has made herself smaller to fit into theirs. It is because they have risen to meet her where she stands. There is a fundamental truth that few acknowledge, and even fewer accept. The higher you climb, the fewer people you will find at your side. The pursuit of strength, the cultivation of independence, the unrelenting demand for personal growth, these things do not come without a cost. They require sacrifice, they require discomfort, and often they require walking a road that is far less crowded than the one most people choose to take. A strong woman understands this in a way that many do not. She does not simply stumble upon solitude. She arrives at it through experience, through observation, through the repeated realization that not everyone is meant to accompany her on the journey she is undertaking. She watches as others form alliances based on convenience rather than conviction. She notices how friendships are often built on mutual enablement rather than mutual respect. And she sees clearly that the moment she refuses to participate in that dynamic, she becomes an outlier. Not because she does not care about connection, but because she cares too much to allow it to be diluted by inauthenticity. And that is the paradox, isn't it? People claim to value strength, yet they recoil from those who possess it. They say they admire independence, yet they resent those who do not rely on their validation. They praise confidence, yet they are unsettled by those who embody it fully. Because a strong woman does not seek permission. She does not bend to the expectations of others. She does not make herself smaller for the sake of someone else's comfort. And that, more than anything else, is what sets her apart. She has learned sometimes the hard way that the world does not reward those who refuse to conform. The moment she establishes boundaries, she is called difficult. The moment she speaks her mind, she is called opinionated. The moment she prioritizes her own well-being over the approval of others, she is called selfish. And at every step, she is faced with a choice: shrink herself to fit in, or stand firm and risk being alone. It is not an easy decision, it never is, because human beings are wired for connection. We long for understanding, for companionship, for a sense of belonging. And so when a woman finds herself walking alone, it is not because she has rejected the idea of friendship or dismissed the importance of community. It is because she has refused to accept anything less than what is real. She has seen what happens when people surround themselves with the wrong crowd, how they lose themselves in the process, how they suppress their own needs in order to maintain the illusion of harmony. She has watched as others have tolerated disrespect, dishonesty, and disloyalty simply because they feared the alternative more. And she has made a different choice. She has chosen to stand alone, not because she desires solitude, but because she understands that true companionship cannot be forced. It cannot be manipulated, bargained for, or maintained at the expense of one's own integrity. It must be built on mutual respect, shared values, and the willingness to accept each other as we are not as we wish the other to be. And so she walks a different path, a quieter one, a more intentional one. And though it is not always easy, it is necessary. Because she knows that the alternative, the slow erosion of self that comes from bending to the expectations of those who do not truly see her, is far worse. She understands that strength is not about isolation, but about discernment. It is about recognizing that not every hand extended in friendship is one worth grasping. That not every invitation into someone's life is one worth accepting. That sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is simply saying no to relationships that drain rather than nourish, to conversations that diminish rather than uplift, to environments that demand compliance rather than encourage authenticity. This is what many fail to grasp. They mistake her solitude for loneliness. They assume that because she does not have many friends, she must be longing for companionship. But she is not lonely, she is selective. She is not isolated, she is intentional. And while others may gather in groups that offer only the illusion of connection, she waits for something real. Because she understands that the right people, the ones who truly belong in her life, will never ask her to be anything other than who she is. They will not resent her strength, but admire it. They will not feel threatened by her independence, but respect it. They will not try to mold her into something more palatable, more agreeable, more easily controlled. Instead, they will meet her where she stands, not because they have to, but because they choose to. And that is the difference. That is the power of refusing to settle. That is why she does not collect friendships like trophies, why she does not chase approval, why she does not allow the fear of being alone to dictate the choices she makes. Because she understands that strength is not just about standing tall in the face of adversity, it is about standing alone when necessary, refusing to lower her standards, and trusting that those who truly belong in her life will find their way to her, not because she has compromised, but because she has remained true to herself. There is a profound and often painful realization that comes with strength, particularly for a woman who has committed herself to growth, to self-respect, to the pursuit of something higher than mere social acceptance. The world is not always kind to those who refuse to conform. It does not roll out the red carpet for individuals who reject mediocrity, who insist on standing firm in their values, who will not bow to the pressures of group simply for the comfort of belonging. Instead, it isolates them, it questions them, it challenges them in ways that most people will never have to face. A strong woman understands this reality better than most. She has seen time and time again that the more she asserts herself, the more she refuses to tolerate disrespect. The more she insists on honesty, the more she challenges the status quo, the fewer people remain by her side. It is not that she has pushed them away. It is not that she has declared herself above them. It is that she has outgrown relationships built on anything less than truth. She has learned that strength has a cost, and that cost is often the comfort of shallow companionship. She does not participate in gossip. She does not engage in the subtle betrayals that so often pass for social bonding. She does not tolerate manipulation, dishonesty, or emotional games, and for this she is labeled cold, unapproachable, difficult. Not because she lacks warmth, but because she refuses to lower her standards to accommodate those who are unwilling to rise to meet her. She is not cruel, she is discerning. She is not distant, she is protective of her energy, her time, her values. And that, more than anything, is what sets her apart. The people who surround themselves with others at any cost do so because they fear the alternative. They fear silence, solitude, the stark reflection of their own thoughts without the constant validation of a crowd. They will endure disrespect to avoid the discomfort of loneliness. They will betray their own beliefs in order to remain accepted. They will trade authenticity for approval, unaware that they are selling something far more valuable than they are receiving in return. But a strong woman does not make that trade. She has stood alone before, and she is willing to do it again if necessary. She understands that strength is not about overpowering others, but about having the courage to be exactly who you are, regardless of who approves. She knows that true confidence does not require an audience. It does not need to be constantly affirmed or raced by external validation. It stands on its own, unshaken, unwavering, immovable. That kind of strength is rare. It is intimidating. It forces others to confront their own weaknesses, their own insecurities, their own willingness to conform. And because most people are not ready to face those truths, they reject the one who embodies them. They say she is too much. They say she is too intense, too serious, too unwilling to compromise. But what they really mean is that she makes them uncomfortable. She reminds them of the ways in which they have settled, in which they have chosen comfort over growth, in which they have allowed fear to dictate the course of their lives. And so she finds herself walking a lonelier path, not because she does not desire connection, but because she refuses to accept connection that is built on anything other than authenticity. She would rather have one genuine I than 100 shallow acquaintances. She would rather be alone than be surrounded by those who do not truly see her, who do not value her for who she is, rather than what she can offer them. This is not an easy road. It requires courage. It requires the ability to sit with discomfort, to face moments of doubt, to resist the temptation to shrink herself for the sake of fitting in. But it is the only road worth walking. Because strength is not just about enduring hardship, it is about choosing integrity over convenience, self-respect over social approval, truth over temporary comfort. She does not measure her worth by the number of people who stand beside her. She does not seek to be universally liked, because she understands that to be liked by everyone is to stand for nothing. She does not delude herself to make others more comfortable. She stands firm, knowing that those who are meant to walk with her will find their way, not because she is bent to accommodate them, but because they are strong enough to stand beside her as equals. And when she does find those people, those rare individuals who see her strength not as a threat, but as an inspiration, it is worth everything. Because true connection is not built on pretending, on people pleasing, on molding oneself to fit into someone else's expectations. It is built on mutual respect, on shared values, on the unwavering commitment to authenticity. A strong woman may not have many friends, but the ones she does have are real. They are solid. They are tested by time and adversity. And that is worth far more than the fleeting acceptance of a crowd that demands conformity in exchange for inclusion. She is not alone. She is simply waiting for those who are strong enough to stand beside her. A strong woman does not conform to the expectations that society subtly, yet persistently imposes upon her. She does not live her life in pursuit of approval, nor does she shape her identity to be more palatable to those who are uncomfortable with strength. Instead, she moves through the world with a quiet determination, one that makes people uneasy because it reveals something they do not want to see: their own lack of discipline, their own unwillingness to take responsibility, their own failure to build themselves into something greater than their circumstances. And for that, she is often left standing alone. It is not that she rejects others, it is that she refuses to play by the rules that govern most social interactions. She will not gossip to create artificial bonds. She will not dim her light to make others feel more comfortable in their mediocrity. She will not apologize for her ambition, her intensity, her refusal to accept anything less than what she knows she deserves. And because of this, she finds herself on a path that many will never dare to walk, a path that requires independence, resilience, and the ability to endure solitude without allowing it to diminish her. Most people seek companionship not out of a genuine desire for connection, but out of fear. They fear the silence of being alone with their thoughts. They fear the discomfort of not being constantly validated by those around them. They fear the idea that without external reinforcement, they might not know who they truly are. And so they surround themselves with people who require little of them, who never challenge them to grow, who are content to exist in a state of stagnation. But a strong woman refuses to settle for that kind of companionship. She would rather walk alone than lower her standards for the sake of fitting in. She has learned through experience that strength comes at a price. People are not always kind to those who refuse to conform. They do not welcome those who challenge their complacency, who demand excellence, who expect accountability. Instead, they label them as difficult, as too intense, as unwilling to compromise. But what they really mean is that they are unwilling to rise to the level of discipline and integrity that true strength requires. And so they turn away. They choose the easy path, the one that does not require them to confront their own weaknesses. This is the paradox of strength that is both deeply admirable and profoundly isolating. People respect it in theory, but they struggle to accept it in practice. They admire discipline, but resent being held to a higher standard. They appreciate confidence, but are intimidated by the certainty that comes with it. And so the strong are often left to walk their own road, not because they desire solitude, but because they refuse to betray themselves for the comfort of shallow relationships. There is great power in that kind of self-sufficiency. It is the ability to know without question that one's worth is not dependent on the approval of others. It is the realization that solitude is not a punishment, but a privilege, a chance to cultivate deeper self-awareness, to pursue meaningful work, to build a life that is not dictated by external validation. It is the understanding that true connection is not about quantity but quality. A single, genuine relationship is worth more than 100 superficial ones. She does not resent those who cannot walk beside her. She does not judge them for their choices, nor does she waste time trying to change them. She simply continues forward, knowing that those who are meant to be part of her journey will reveal themselves not through words, but through actions. She knows that real friendship is not built on convenience, but on shared values, on mutual respect, on the unwavering commitment to truth. And when she does find those rare individuals who understand her, who see her strength not as a threat but as an inspiration, she values them beyond measure. She does not take connection for granted because she understands what it means to stand alone. She has been tested by isolation, by the way to walking a path that few will ever understand. And that has made her strong in a way that cannot be shaken by the fleeting opinions of others. There will always be those who misunderstand her, who resent her for the simple fact that she refuses to play by the rules they have accepted without question. But she does not live for their approval. She does not shape herself to fit into their expectations. She does not fear their rejection because she has already faced the hardest truth of all that true strength requires: the willingness to stand alone when necessary. And in that solitude she finds freedom. The freedom to be exactly who she is without apology. The freedom to pursue a life of meaning, of purpose, of unwavering integrity. The freedom to choose relationships that are based on authenticity rather than convenience. The freedom to build a life that is not defined by the opinions of others, but by the values she holds most dear. That is the power of a strong woman. She does not seek approval. She does not fear solitude. She does not compromise her values for the sake of fitting in. And because of that, she is rare. She is intimidating. She is at times alone, but she is never lost. She walks her path with certainty, knowing that strength is not about being liked, it is about being true to oneself, no matter the cost. A strong woman understands something fundamental about human nature. People are not always comfortable around those who refuse to conform. There's something about unwavering independence, self-assurance, and deep-seated strength that unsettles people. It forces them to confront their own insecurities, their own lack of discipline, their own failure to take responsibility for their lives. And so, instead of celebrating strength, many retreat from it. They avoid it. They even resent it. This is the reason why strong women don't have many friends, not because they are unkind, not because they are unapproachable, but because they will not tolerate mediocrity. They will not indulge in self-deception, nor will they surround themselves with those who refuse to hold themselves accountable. They demand more not just from themselves, but from the people they choose to keep in their lives. And that demand for more is something most people are not willing to meet. It's not easy to be around someone who won't accept excuses, who won't entertain pointless gossip, who won't allow self-pity to dominate a conversation. It's not easy to maintain a relationship with someone who refuses to play social games, who won't tolerate manipulation, who values honesty over comfort. A strong woman expects the people in her life to stand on their own 2 feet, to take responsibility for their choices, to strive towards something higher. And because of that, she will not be surrounded by a crowd. She will not have an endless stream of acquaintances. She will not be included in every social gathering, in every shallow interaction, in every moment of collective weakness disguised as connection. She sees through all of it. The empty validation, the meaningless approval, the pressure to be liked at the expense of one's values. She does not bend to it. She does not chase it. And that makes her different. It makes her someone that only a few can truly understand, truly appreciate, truly stand beside. There is a deep loneliness that comes with refusing to lower your standards. It is not an easy path to walk. There will be moments where the silence feels overwhelming, where the absence of companionship makes one question whether the price of strength is too high. But what is the alternative? To dilute oneself, to betray one's principles, to pretend to be something one is not just to be accepted. That is a far greater suffering. That is the slow erosion of the self, the gradual decay of one's integrity, the death of authenticity. A strong woman does not choose solitude. It is the natural consequence of refusing to compromise on what truly matters. And yet she does not resent it. She does not see it as a punishment, but as a necessary refining process. She understands that in the absence of superficial relationships, something far greater is cultivated: self-respect, clarity, the ability to stand firm in the face of adversity. She learns to trust herself, to rely on her own strength, to walk forward even when no one is there to reassure her that she is on the right path. This is what separates the strong from the weak: the ability to be alone without falling into despair, the ability to stand apart without seeking constant validation, the ability to hold on to one's convictions even when they lead to isolation. It is not that she does not want connection, it is that she values it too much to settle for anything less than something real, something true, something built on more than convenience and shallow affirmation. And so she waits. She waits for the kind of friendships, the kind of relationships that can withstand the weight of truth. She waits for those who are not intimidated by strength, but inspired by it. She waits for the few who understand that real connection is not about constant agreement, but about mutual respect, about pushing each other to be better, about refusing to allow each other to fall into complacency. The world does not make it easy to be this kind of person. There are pressures at every turn to conform, to fit in, to make oneself smaller so that others feel more comfortable. There are messages, both subtle and overt, that tell strong women they must soften themselves, dilute themselves, make themselves less intimidating. But to do so would be a betrayal of the very strength that sets them apart. And so they walk forward alone if necessary, unwavering in their commitment to who they are. They understand that the loneliness they experience is not a curse, but a sign that they are unwilling to trade their authenticity for the comfort of belonging. They recognize that while their path may be solitary, it is also one of great purpose. It is a path that demands resilience, that requires courage, that asks them to be more than what society expects. And in time, they find that they are not as alone as they once thought, that there are others who refuse to settle, others who value truth over approval, others who are willing to stand beside them, not because they need them, but because they respect them. These are the people who matter. These are the relationships worth waiting for. These are the connections that are built on something far stronger than convenience. A strong woman may not have many friends, but the ones she does have, those are the ones who truly see her, who truly understand her, who truly value her. And in the end, that is worth far more than any crowd, any approval, any fleeting moment of social acceptance. That is the kind of connection that endures. That is the kind of connection that matters. A strong woman's path is not an easy one, but it is a path of integrity, resilience, and authenticity. She may not have many friends, but the few she does have will be those who truly understand and respect her. She does not seek validation through numbers, but through depth, through truth, through real connection. And though solitude may sometimes weigh heavily, it is far better than compromising who she is for the sake of fitting in. Strength demands sacrifice, but it also brings the kind of fulfillment that only comes from living a life aligned with one's highest values.